It's the crack of dawn somewhere near Stuttgart, and Cécile Lecomte is getting ready for work. The anti-nuclear activist is planning a day of climbing and protesting. Cécile sets off in a convoy with the rest of the environmental protesters. They organize today's action via encoded emails. They want to be in position before sunrise with their blockade of the nuclear power plant at Neckar-Westheim. Every minute counts.
Nach hinten ziehen, jetzt zu mir. Bleib bei mir. Das ist zu eng, die Füße aber. Ein bisschen mehr nach da.
Together, the activists erect a barricade they hope will stop the 300 power plant workers during their shift change.
Oh shit.
French-born Cécile used to climb for medals in sports competitions. Now she climbs for her political ideals. It's her way of making a point, but there's also a safety aspect.
I feel safer in a tree or up in the air than down on the ground. They can't get to you as quickly. I've been at sit-ins where the police start whacking people with batons, sometimes without warning. If you climb up somewhere the police can't reach you easily, it's a lot safer. They'll think a bit more about what they're doing.
Spontane Reaktion, die Blockade muss weg, sondern es ist ein bisschen überlegter, was die da machen.
The barricade is up in an hour. Cécile and the others want to see Neckar-Westheim taken offline immediately and not in a few years as planned. For Cécile, it's not just a question of belief, it's her job. She's a full-time activist, and this is her work.
I do it because it's worth it. They're not going to shut down the nuclear power plants unless people do something. Everyone should do this till we reach a critical mass. Not the critical mass in the nuclear power plant, but here on the street, to get everything switched off.
The anti-nuclear protest movement has occupied the road here, even if it is just temporarily. The plant operators and the police are taking a passive approach, letting the protest go ahead. For Cécile, a small success on the way to a greater goal.
I won't vote for politicians to spend 4 years breaking their promises. I want environmental protection and nuclear phase-out from the grassroots.
In Berlin, there's an annual meeting for all those who support Cécile and other full-time activists. It's an opportunity for sponsors to contribute money so the former teacher can dedicate herself entirely to protesting.
I found Cécile's commitment so fascinating that I said this work deserves my support. I can't do all this myself, so by sponsoring something like this, I can make a small contribution so someone else can be active there.
Cécile gets the media attention to make things a success. You wouldn't get that attention if Cécile wasn't there climbing up trees or chaining herself to things.
There's no talk about money here. For Cécile, it's just enough to pay her living expenses and social insurance.
I think resistance movements work a bit like a chain, and every link in the chain is important. Financing is one. I look for my own sponsors. People who feel like supporting my work are welcome to. Those who don't want to anymore don't have to. It's up to them.
And that's how she's ended up traveling around Germany as a freelance activist for the last few years. Like here in Dortmund. The climber-turned-activist even uses her court summons as an opportunity to protest against government policies. Her activism is a delicate balancing act between upholding and breaking the law. She's been summoned to court for barricading a ship transporting nuclear waste last year. For Cécile, that represents a world turned upside down. A number of fellow activists have turned up to support Cécile. She's got a host of arguments planned in defense of her action. She's using the courtroom as an opportunity to explain the reasons behind her anti-nuclear activism. She's not afraid of convictions or heavy fines.
I've been convicted a few times on public order offenses like for freeing a field from genetic engineering. I sold that fine. I said, who thinks it's right to make a stand against gene technology? 40 people bought a day of the fine and it was paid off.
Cecile's barricade of the nuclear plant at Neckarwestheim won't have legal consequences, though. The operators are allowing the protesters a free run, and the police have opted against clearing them out. The workers are using side entrances instead. It's a small victory for the anti-nuclear camp, and for Cecile, it's just the end of another shift working as a full-time activist.